With us now to continue our conversation, Miri Eisin, a retired colonel in the Israeli Defense Forces and a former Israeli government spokesperson. She is now managing director of the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism at Reichman University. And Major John Spencer, chair of urban warfare studies at the Modern War Institute at West Point. So, John, Israel and Hamas accuse each other of breaking the pause in fighting today, but the Israeli government told MSNBC just last hour that the pause is still on. This is a very precarious moment for these pauses.
Absolutely. And one, I choose to believe the IDF before I do Hamas as a general stance, but yes, there's lots of fighting this morning to include IDF soldiers being injured, as maintaining the pause to pursue as many hostage releases as possible. There's still over 160 in captivity, to include many Americans, and lots of diplomatic efforts going on in Qatar and other places to ensure these pauses continue to allow for more hostage release, and to ensure the IDF and Israel continues to do as much as it can to prevent civilian harm. And the IDF general visiting Congress is a great part of that process to inform Congress on the steps that are taken and that will continue to be taken to both destroy Hamas but prevent civilian harm, which is the goal of any Western military that adheres to moral values and the international humanitarian law.
And so, Miri, so far, more than 50 hostages, including American Abigail Edan. She was 4 years old. She turned 4 in captivity. 7 weeks in captivity have been released. Another 10 could be freed today, another 10 maybe tomorrow. But still about 173 hostages remain in Gaza. What does Israel have to do to get these hostages out? And if this pause ends tomorrow, there's still a lot of people in there that, how do you get them out?
There's no question that the reason that terrorists plan attack, let alone do this unprecedented mass hostage release, is so that you, Jose, are going to ask me, the Israeli, so what do you do? There are no good options. What you do is the combination of what we've done until now. You do harsh military pressure on Hamas, the terror organization. That's what brought them to the table, not just because the diplomacy came after them. In the first few weeks, they wouldn't talk to anybody. Only after the ground operation did they start so. And as you said, Jose, that ground operation has a horrible cost. Israel does everything it can, telling civilians to move, telling civilians to get out to save their lives. And it doesn't make it any easier. And the pictures of destruction that you're showing are absolutely going to be part of that. But what we need to do right now is to focus on it's a dual maneuver. You do the military pressure and you get more hostages. You do more military pressure, you get more hostages. It's not a happy option, but to me, it's the only one there. Get as many as you can right now on the pause. But immediately after that, it's going to be back to that military pressure.
And, Miri, I was thinking about just the many steps that Hamas took to plan the horrible massacre of the 7th of October. 1,200 men, women, and children killed in their homes in a peace concert. So many taken to Gaza as hostage. The suffering and the blood that was shed on the 7th of October, in a way, continues. And I'm just thinking, Miri, the planning of Hamas to do these steps has been, for them, somewhat, I don't know. How do you see the level of planning and what they tried to get out of this?
One of the challenges I have, even as a director, like of an institute, what we do is about terrorism, is that I could not, in my own mind, plan such a dehumanizing genocidal plan. I couldn't think of it in that way. I also couldn't protect Israel and say that this is going to happen because I couldn't conceive that they would do this kind of a plan, Jose. And having said that, the additional aspect, which is part of the plan, is to build your entire defense system underneath 2.2 million people and to make Israel trying to do the best we can. I've talked with you before in the past, and I've said to you, my children are the ones who are fighting. They need to know when they look at themselves in the mirror that they've never targeted civilians. And yet, Jose, look at the amount of civilians that have been killed because Hamas hide behind them, live within them. There is no easy option. As an Israeli, I need to know that I've destroyed the planners and executors of this horrible plan, who in the last 7.5 weeks have said again that they're going to do it again and again and again. I can't live here when they still exist, those planners.
It is very clear that they plan to do it again and again and again. Not only have they said that in the last 7 weeks, but it's in their charter and so much more. So, John, does a pause of this length make it more difficult for Israel to resume fighting? And, you know, thinking about what Miri says, I mean, the horrible cost to innocent humans, still there is the need to deal with this reality.
Absolutely, Jose, and it absolutely makes the IDF's job harder to continue the operation and pursue peace, which only can come with the removal of Hamas in Gaza. It absolutely makes it harder, but these are the tough choices that politically and to get the hostages back that have to be made, and the IDF soldiers know that. And urban warfare, without question, is the most difficult warfare you can ever ask a military to do. As we've seen, just the perception of what you're doing can have massive strategic consequences. But this is the price that Israel was willing to pay, that know that it would be harder. Over 30,000 Hamas fighters laying in a city under a city waiting for the IDF to move forward, who are taking this opportunity not only to improve their positions, but try to force the Palestinian civilians to go back to their homes. While the IDF, the biggest thing you can do to prevent civilian harm is to keep the civilians out of the main combat areas. And Hamas, who wants to sacrifice as many civilians as they can so that we all talk about it, is trying to push them back into the combat areas. Yes, it will be a lot harder for the IDF, but that's the price that they knew they would pay.
Earl Miri Eisen and Major John Spencer, thank you both for being with us today. I very much appreciate your time.